We are continuing now our quest into looking at Hashem in our lives. And Baruch Hashem, we got some great emails this week. Some from the boys in the Haligi Yeshiva who noticed the Rabbeinu Hashem in their lives. I think this is what it's all about. That's what it's all about. The more stories we hear, I think the more it's machazik the idea of, oh my gosh, that's right, this is because of Hashem, that because of Hashem, that and because of that. It's just amazing how things work that way. So that's the reason why we do this. If somebody asks, like, what is this? The stories? Like, seriously, I need to come here just to hear stories? The answer is, first of all, it's recognizing the Rabbeinu Shem in your life. And also, by hearing these stories, you start to realize and you start to focus on that which happens in your life, which, as we said many times, can change the whole perspective. And I beg of the Olam to start your own notebook, start your own page on your phone, whatever it is, of noticing and writing down when the Rabbeinu Shalom does things that you see clearly. Of course, Baruch does everything, but when you see clearly that it ends up like, oh wow, that's amazing, write that down. That's anything. So I'll just tell you a couple of things before we start with the emails. I had a Choshva Yid sitting in my house Friday night, a Yid from Lakewood, came in for like Boimes, he came to eat by me, and he told me a Maisa. I don't remember all the details, but it's a beautiful Maisa. And he says to me like this. He says he knows a Kolon Yungaman that put in an offer for a house in Jackson. Apparently, all the house prices are going up around the world, in America, in Lakewood, wherever you are. And he wanted to get this house. Prices are going up. He wanted a chaparine. So he put in whatever he could manage. It wasn't the greatest offer in the world. He put in this offer for this house in Jackson. But as he put in the offer, he said, there's no way they're going to take my offer. Like anyone normal can afford way more than I'm offering for this house. It's a great house, land, it's in a great location, whatever it is. I'll put in the offer because I have to understand this, right? So he puts in the offer, and he waits and he waits and he waits, and eventually he kind of gives up, so forget it. Obviously, I've got to start moving on the process, finding somewhere else, till he gets that phone call. He gets a phone call from whoever it was that's in charge of selling the house, and they said, Mr. Cohen, I want to tell you that your offer has been accepted. He says, really? My offer was accepted? No way. You telling me you didn't get any higher offers than mine? He said, actually, we got very high offers, including one offer for $100,000 more than what you were offering. She said, I don't understand. So why was it that you accepted my offer? So listen to what he said. He said, this house was owned by a couple, Goyim, non-Jewish people, who were getting divorced, a sticky divorce. And the court case made up a psak that whatever they make money of the house, the husband has to give half of it to his wife. So he took the lowest offer possible to make sure that he wouldn't give this to his wife. But his offer was accepted. Rabbi say that is Yad Hashem. That is absolutely moiridik. And I want to tell you another Gavaldiga Maisa, which I read in a book, and it goes like this. There was a printing press. A non-Jewish printing press that prints books and gets manuscripts from people like 10, 20 every single week from these hopeful writers that want to really hope to try and make it in life and become rich and become famous and whatever. And he tries to go through them, whatever it was. There was one time someone who he actually knew sent in a manuscript and he put it in like a nice gift box, I guess thinking that the owner of the printing press will look at it and maybe take more notice of it. Put it in this nice gift box. And the fella put it on his desk, and he never managed to look at it. And one night he says, you know something? This guy keeps calling me once a week. If you checked it, I haven't had time. I'm going to take it home. So he takes this gift box back with the manuscript, puts it in the side of his car, and he goes wherever he goes to travel home. He puts it in the front of the car and he stops at one of the local restaurants on the way home in order to eat something before he makes it home. He stops there a couple of hours, he eats something before he comes back. He comes back to his car and he sees that the window is smashed, that the radio has been taken, and this gift box is gone. Now the radio, he says, big deal. I can figure out the radio, I'll get a new radio, it's not the end of the world. Oh, but the gift box, obviously someone thought there was something choshev in there, took it away. Now he remembered that the guy who wrote the manuscript said, be really, really careful. It's the only copy that I have. There is no other copy. We're talking about before computers and files and backups and everything. This was the only copy of the manuscript that he had. How is he going to break it to the guy who wrote it that he has lost the manuscript, the only one that's existing? He didn't know what to do. For a couple of days he was hemming and hurrying, what should I do, till he gets that weekly phone call from the guy who wrote it saying, about to say, no, did you check it? But he doesn't say, no, did you check it? He said to the guy, it's a bissel of chutzpah, he says. It's a bissel of chutzpah that I understand you didn't like my manuscript. I understand you didn't like it, you didn't want to print it, you didn't think it was print worthy. Fine. But to throw it in my backyard, I think that's a bit of a chutzpah. This guy couldn't believe it. Out of all the places in the world that this gunner took it from the front seat of his car, obviously opened it, saw it's a bunch of papers, and threw it in somebody's backyard in America, was this guy who wrote it backyard, which is absolutely mind-boggling. Tell you another one as well. The guy was delivering the post, and he comes to the house, and he sees the lady of the house is just standing there, and he's like, is everything okay? She says, I forgot my key inside. The neighbor who has the spare key is not there. He's gone away for a couple of days vacation, and my husband, who's got another key, is on some kind of work, whatever it is, in the middle of who knows where. I'm stuck without a key. What can I do? So he says, listen, the only thing you can do is call a locksmith. Go figure it out. They'll open up the key, they'll open up the door, and everything will be fine. She said, yeah, I guess it's a lot of money. I'm trying to think of other options. Whatever. He says, listen, man, I can't spend a lot of time here. Here's the mail for today. Hopefully there's a letter in there that maybe will give you a bit of chizuk, that will enlighten you, that will uplift you. All right, I've got nothing better to do than check the mail, right? So she checks the mail, and she opens it, and all of a sudden a key falls out. And she reads the letter, and it says, I came to stay in your house a couple of weeks ago, if you remember, and you gave me a spare key, and I forgot to take it with me, I forgot to give it to you before I left. So here's the key right now. Unbelievable acts of pure divine providence and Hashgacha Peratis in the world. Rabbi say, email came in like this. Thank you very much for Shu'um, especially Hashgacha Peratis on something small I experienced. Again, it's something small things. My wine opener broke a few weeks ago, and I completely forgot about it. But this week, I went to the store, and I bought a few bottles of wine, and the guy in the store gave me a free one without even asking, as I had completely forgotten about it. Again, it's a tiny thing, but there's an act of Hashgacha Peratis that the Rebbeinu Shalom of the world that gave you a wine opener. Another one. Okay, I would like to share two stories. One long summer Shabbos afternoon, I went for a sleep after the Sudan Shabbos. Knowing that Mincha was at 7 o'clock, I asked the Rebbeinu Shalom, before I went to sleep, please wake me up at 5 o'clock so I could learn for a few hours before Mincha, as one does. I woke up and I saw the clock, precisely 5 o'clock, exactly 2 hours before Mincha. I wouldn't have minded if 10 minutes before, 10 minutes after, but the Rebbeinu Shalom waking me up at exactly 5 o'clock, I felt like an extra kiss from the Rebbeinu Shalom reminding me that he is always listening. The second story, a little more dramatic. One year, the yeshiva gave us off for Shabbos Chanukah. Why? Anyway, so myself and about 8 other guys rented an apartment in Netanya for Shabbos. After our meal on a Friday night, we went for a walk on the promenade that overlooks the beach. We passed by a pier which stretched out towards the ocean and was probably about 70 feet above the beachside road below. We began strolling onto the pier, and as we did so, a shadowy figure who had been standing at the end of the pier looking out towards the ocean started to climb over the gate at the end of the pier, dangling above the drop to the hard road about 70 feet below. We ran towards him, grabbed his arm, and managed to pull him back to safety before we could attempt to take his life. We found people who were there, were able to help him, and continued our walk. It wasn't until later that night we realized the Hashgacha Peratis of this story. Our original plan was to spend Shabbos in a different apartment that was not even in Netanya. We sat around our apartment for a while after we finished our meal, and then we spoke to a random guy that we met on the street for a while. The Rebbeinu Shalom orchestrated that would be exactly at the right place, exactly at the right time, so we can have the schus of saving a life. That's unbelievable, Rabbi Say. Let's move on. Another email here. Shalom Aleichem, I live in Lakewood and often work in New York. A few years ago, I haven't read this one, by the way. A few years ago, my friend was telling me I should start listening to Shu'um Torah anytime during my travels. However, it's not my type of thing to do. But after a little nudging, I listened and someone came across one of your halacha Shu'um has been a listener ever since. I want to thank you for helping me getting close to the Rebbeinu Shalom in many ways. While that in itself... No. I haven't read it. While that in itself is enough of Hashgacha, that is not the story I'm writing about. I am an accountant, and the following happened to my client. However, as you will see, I was involved and got permission to send it in. When COVID shut down businesses, almost practically everything else, the US government decided to fund businesses affected by the pandemic with something called PPP loan. And if used for certain businesses' expenses, the so-called loan would be forgiven and quickly became referred to as free money. This grant saved many businesses and individuals. One of my clients, who is what they call a self-employed individual as a musician, was naturally affected with a lack of simchas. After going back and forth with the bank, he finally got approved for $11,000, which is a lot of money for someone out of work and trying to support a family, and was told to wait for the follow-up email with instructions of how to proceed. After a couple of months, he called me to see if it's normal that he hasn't yet received any money. I called the banker and was told that she hadn't sent the documents to be signed. However, he didn't sign. She sent the documents to be signed, however he didn't sign, and they pulled the application. To make matters worse, the program was no longer available. My client had been waiting for the email, but for some reason he missed that one. He didn't understand how that can happen, but he was not disappointed at all and told me if that's what Hashem, he didn't want me to have the money, I guess it's the best thing. A few months later, they reopened a new round of this program. However, they changed certain credentials, and based on the new law, he was now qualified for $20,000 instead of only $11,000. We applied for both rounds right away, and he received both of them, and because he somehow deleted the one email he was waiting, he received additional $9,000. I was most impressed with him. Even at the time he appeared to have lost 11, he understood it was meant to be. You may not want to hear more from me, but I cannot resist. Just yesterday, my 12-year-old son, who doesn't know anything about the current share, oh, he does know your quick Erev Shabbos clips. Okay, he came from yeshiva, all excited to tell me his Hashgacha story of the day. The two sixth grade classes of his yeshiva were taken to the nearby park by their teachers. A few boys from the other class left a little bit early to reserve the so-called better field. About 15 minutes into their baseball game, the other class was kicked off the field by a league that had the rights to that field and was placed off to the side on a makeshift field. He came and started stating proudly how it doesn't help not to do the right thing. It's all up to Hashem. Rabbi Sai, we see time and time again the Hashgacha Peratis in the world. Let's think in our lives. Let's concentrate on everything the Rebbeinu Shem does for us. Little things, small things, huge, massive, huge things. The Rebbeinu Shem orchestrates our life, orchestrates everything that goes on. The more we think about it, the more we have gratitude and understand how the Rebbeinu Shem runs our life. And the Rebbeinu Shem should always make sure that we see His hand in everything we do. Have a wonderful day.